everyone, to the most ill-conceived business podcast around, the Business is Bullshit podcast. I'm James Hornick. Joining me are two guys. I'm not going to revert. I was going to make a joke about the last conversation. I'm just not even saying that. Jared and Jon are here this week. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you both.
What would you have said? Like, how would you even revert it back to that?
I'm not going to say. Anyways. It
rhymes with dick.
All right, we've already gone off the rails. Episode 15. We are going to talk about mailing it in and quitting. Why quitting's not bullshit. I don't know. Before we start, I wanted to make a correction. In the last episode, we had a good reader shout out, and I could not figure it out, but Adrian Ashelman, huge fan of ours. That is how you pronounce the name. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All
That's
right.
good.
There we
Moving on. New business. How do I want to lay this one up? I think that we had, obviously, quitting is part of life. I think we all had this shared annoyance together that the two most overused things when people talk about leaving their jobs, it's people only quit for the money, or people, how does it go? People don't
leave a
quit
job, they leave a boss.
They quit a shitty boss or something like that.
Yeah, something stupid like that, which I don't know if it's bullshit or it's so surface level that doesn't actually get in the details to be useful. I think. I mean, you could roll anything into that. You know what I mean? Like any real reason.
But those are most like sayings. You know?
Yeah.
It's going to all encompass something, and you're going to, it's either going to hit you or it's not.
Yeah. So
I mean, if you have a terrible boss, like you're probably not long for that company, and if you are, you're a glutton for punishment.
But it's also what makes a terrible boss. Because I think the problem I have.
Checks.
Yeah, bounce check. That's a good one. Part of the issue I have with that is like people think, I think the bad bosses out there, they're like, well, I'm not a jerk, so I'm a good boss. But no, there's like 50 reasons why you might still suck. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's not like a useful enough kind of saying. Now, the biggest quitter I know, Jared's quit lots of jobs, so he really was excited about taking the lead in this episode because he's got a laundry list of grievances built up over the years.
No, I haven't quit a lot of jobs. I definitely have stories.
What's
though.
a lot?
I have stories. Like I've been affected by multiple of the reasons why people leave jobs. I think bosses, maybe one of them. I mean, there's three. Yeah. I got 3 stories.
All right.
I'm old, dude. It's been a long career.
Let's start by some storytelling. Where do you want to start, Jared? What was the third most miserable experience you had? We'll save the best for last.
Pray tell.
Third most miserable. So we're going to count down. Hopefully you guys have some other ones
do you have like a disco light in your room there? Like what is happening there?
Do you like that?
Yeah,
John,
it's doing
John
Morse
and
code.
I talked about it. It is. It's a new feature. I should stop it though. Hold on. It is distracting. What about green? I like green.
Yeah,
no,
just leave it alone.
The fun part of this is I already went over with him, told him like, no, they all suck. Yeah, he was like, I think it still works.
I'm going to cycle through so everyone sees all the colors. I mean, anyone listening to this on audio only is like, what are these idiots talking about? But Jared has some sort of mood light that changes every 2 seconds in his background, and it's the most distracting thing I've seen.
It's like just cool. It's cool.
All right,
the kids behind it.
I was tracking some podcasters, and this is what they do.
They do.
Right.
They do
Cool
the lighting thing.
They do all kinds of douchey things.
Big time.
Podcasters are the worst. All right, your third worst job.
Third worst job. I jumped to a job for money, and I knew within the first day that it was not everything that I thought it was going to be, because my 2 bosses that I reported to, both of them, got into a screaming match in the office right behind me, and I realized very quickly that I was sold a bill of goods, and it was not what I thought it was going to be. So
what were they
that was a
over,
short one. Me.
Whoa.
Me. Like about me, right? Like I could hear
They didn't want you on the team, or they wanted you on one of the
They
teams?
wanted to me. They wanted to talk about direction. It also didn't help that I went to this company and the CRM was an Excel sheet. And that's kind of, I maybe should have found that out at the beginning, but I didn't, because I was excited for the money. So that was like a mulligan in my career where I was at the job for like 5 months. I don't even recognize it. But so that's a shitty job. That's a reason I left, is because I was sold something and was not doing what they told me I was going to be doing.
So the old bait and switch.
The old bait and switch. Bait and switch.
Right.
How about you guys? Are we ranking all of ours? Is that the plan?
I've quit a couple. Yeah.
Well, we know one of your stories. That's got to be
I
number
got fired. Oh no, yeah. Why I quit starting agency? Yeah. That's it. I had a water job. So this guy.
What does that? What does that mean? We mean you had a water job.
It's the setup. It's the setup. Right? So the a friend, her boyfriend at the time was like pulling in, I don't know, like $20,000 a week or something, or I can't remember. It was a lot. And my dad had just fired me, so I was only at this company for like a short period of time. And
this is the quitting podcast, not the getting fired podcast, John. Just make sure we're getting okay. Good. Make sure we're getting that.
So I got fired. I'm in between jobs, and this guy, Big Hair Claire was her name, and Big Hair Claire, his boyfriend, was like pulling in a lot of money.
Back when $20,000 a week was a lot of money. This is a long time ago. Now that's chump change.
Yeah. So I'm driving like an hour to go to this training, and while I'm there, I realize this is like door-to-door water sales. And they would go in, it's like a 2 to 3 hour like process, and then in that you convince somebody that they're literally drinking like lead and chlorine and they're going to die within a matter of weeks of you walking out of that door. And not
to go off track, but to be fair, this was probably before everyone knew about the what's it called, the forever chemicals. So you probably are right. They probably were drinking like toxins. Anyways, continue.
So I'm a month into this job, and I'm not selling anything, right? And I'm finally at this lady's house. She's like in her 80s. She's got oxygen in her nose, and and I need to get this sale. I am so broke. I've never been this broke in my entire life. And she keeps telling me, she's like, you should really talk to my granddaughter. She's like showing me pictures. I'm like, no. I was like, we got to talk about your health here. And then I was in a wealthy neighborhood, and then she finally says, okay, she's like, look, she said, if you believe this is the best thing for me, she's like, I'll go ahead and buy it. And that was $8,000, where I got like 50% of the commission if I sold that unit. And she looks me right in the eyes, though. She said, yep, if you think this is the best thing for me, she's like, I'm going to go ahead and sign right now. And I looked her right in the eyes, like, nah, you don't need this fucking shit. Dude, I tore it up, and I quit right there. I didn't have the heart. I couldn't do it. I was just like, no, that wasn't the best thing for her. And shortly after that, like it turns out that the company was, for the most part, kind of scammy. Like the system didn't even work as well as they thought they did. So that was my quitting.
That is not the direction that I thought that this was going to go. I thought for sure you were like, I need the $4,000. Like, forget about it.
I couldn't do it. Nah, I don't know. It was a good. I think it was man.
I had the opposite of that one time in my career. My first job out of college, I was selling subprime mortgages. I was part of the subprime shit show, and I sold I refinanced a lady's row home, an old lady's row home in Philadelphia, on a subprime mortgage, and I knew that it was like just not good. Like these subprime mortgages, like there was a feeling as I was selling them like they were not good, and that I quit because it was just, it didn't feel right, because I knew that these people could not afford. They could not afford these.
And dude, that was the thing. Like they in that company, they said, "Oh, well, you should go into like trailer parks." I was like, "Why?" He said, "Why would they want to buy an $8,000 to $20,000 system?" Like that to me didn't make sense. He's like, "Oh man, because we'll just finance them." He's like, "It doesn't matter if they can't pay it off." I was like, "God." I mean, it was just this continual predatory type of behavior, and I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there.
So we'll mark both these down as value misalignment. How's that sound? I've got a list of 16 reasons why someone could quit their job that's not because of a bad boss, and I'm just going to call them out as you guys nail down your stories.
All right. Jared,
the funny thing is, like, James, you've been like with the same company for 20 years. John and I are just like, oh, I got another one. I got like 4.
I got shit. I have nothing to add in this episode.
But you've seen it.
I have seen a ton of things, and I'd rather you guys go into. I can, whatever you guys don't hit on, I'll be able to knock out of the park. Whatever, I've seen it all. So, but I just haven't lived it the same way you guys have.
All right, John, why don't you lead off round 2?
Round 2. I mean, this was the only other company I really quit from. Yeah, I told this on in like episode 12, but yeah, essentially I was working like 20 hours a day, and there was these consultants had bought into the company, and I was in. in essentially everything that you knew of like an awesome small medium-sized businesses, like wakeboarding, partying at night, you know.
Yeah. This is the clip that went viral when on our guest appearance on the John Morris's podcast. Yeah.
So in any event, I quit that company because, I mean, dude, just absolute underappreciation and not even caring about like the distance I was going, and just also when you see like a company go from like, and maybe you guys have experienced, from like a small company to like a larger organization, and it becomes overly corporate, this Machiavellian political behavior comes out, culture changes, it's just, you see fangs. And I mean, dude, working 20 hours a day, I mean, I couldn't drink enough caffeine or, you know, get enough stimulants in me to keep, so I told them to go fuck themselves.
What other types of stimulants do we?
That was actually the first time I tried Adderall, like when I was working there. Like a buddy of mine, and the bastard too, he's like, oh dude, try one of these, man. And I was like, oh my god, that was amazing. I was like, can I get any more? He's like, no. Like the next day I was like, dude, like who does that? I mean, you're like the worst drug dealer on the planet.
I would put that once again on our list, the underappreciation visible. I think that's definitely top 5, maybe top 3, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Underappreciation of what?
Underappreciation of effort, 100%. Because I think that you could say this is an aspect of a bad boss, but in general, like people take other people for granted after a while. They see people's efforts and they just become used to them, or they think that's a norm, and they believe that going the extra mile than 2 miles is just part of the job, and everyone should do it and not feel the need to be thanked for it. But it's kind of a flawed. I think it's like dumbass founder mentality, because there's founders who may have started companies and they work 80 hours a week, and they expect everyone else to work 80 hours a week. Yeah, well, those people don't have the equity in the company like you do. You know what I mean? So
right.
they need. Yeah. So it's just this flawed idea that everyone should have the same level of buy-in, even though they literally do not have the same amount at stake that you do. So
they take the relationship for granted.
Yeah.
Right, and once you start doing that, then it's never good.
And a couple other little points I'd add to that too. Now thinking back, like there were some other things too. Like they were supposed to pay off my college loans, and then there was this like whole like conversation of why that was happening. There was a bonus check that was due, and like they were like partying in the Mediterranean, and I was like, dude, like where's my money, man? And yeah, so all these things kind of like leading up to all of that, where it just totally changed. And anybody, if they find themselves in that situation, like get the fuck out of there. Like if they're telling you what they're worth to you, you have to quit. Like find a way to make it bad enough so you go.
What you're worth to them.
Totally. Yeah, they're literally telling you like what you're worth.
All right, that's a
Jared,
good one.
You got two in the chamber, I think.
Yeah. So let's go with. All right, I'll save my number one for the end. So I had a job. It was probably I was with this company for almost 10 years. Loved the job. Loved the people. Loved my boss. Like the guy I reported to. He's the best man at my wedding. Like, great dude. I got burnout from driving. The burnout. It got me like I was driving from, driving from Chicago to East Lansing for a 9 a.m. meeting, and then down to Peoria for a 2 p.m. meeting. Next day, I'm up in Green Bay, just driving. And I was getting no-call, no-showed often, where they would.
Wow.
So was that progressing? Like you were getting more no-call, no-shows?
It was. I don't say it was. I wouldn't say it was progressing. It was just. I mean, it just happened. Like if every 5 meetings, you'd get no-call, no-showed one time, and it was just. And it was part of it, and I'd done it for 8-9 years. I was a road warrior driving all over the place. That's what brought me to Chicago. I was in Columbus, driving from like Columbus to central Pennsylvania one day, Cincinnati the next day, just driving, beating the shit.
Like a Prius or something?
Beating the shit out of my Camry. Oh, so many miles on the Camry. I went through 2 or 3 cars there. I had a Nissan Altima, a Toyota Camry, beating the shit out of them. And I just got to the point where I was just like, dude, I got to find something else. I can't keep doing that. And I kind of regret that decision because I had so much equity with that company, like sweat equity. Like, and then like I was friends with the ownership. Credibility.
They gave a shit.
I was a 6th employee. I think when I left, they had like maybe 70, 75 employees. So they did give a shit. Like I genuinely still have relationships with everybody there, but I just got burnt out.
Do you think they could have changed anything? Like, do you think it's something that, like, did you make a hasty decision quitting, or is there no way around? Like, there's no way to get it fixed?
No, I think it was a bit of a hasty decision quitting because I found out later that there was a new offering or a new service that they wanted me to spearhead that would pull back from me driving. They just weren't ready to present it to me yet. They were like trying to hint at it, but I didn't get the hint. So
that is a real, because burnout across the board is one of the biggest things that's like not necessarily we see it all the time when it comes to travel-based positions. People they're on the road, not just like you were grinding, but like people flying, like classic consulting, people flying out. People can't do that forever. You know, that's always our talent pipeline in other areas. People who like I don't want to say run out of the big four, but people who just couldn't maintain that travel schedule anymore leave. And it's not because they had a bad boss or anything else like that.
Schedule where you're gone 2 to 3 weeks.
It just sucks after a while. And the other thing too is that I think a lot of people are in the same trap that you were in there, Jared. It's like, it's not comfortable to talk to your boss about wanting to quit. Like it's emotionally less taxing just to find a new job than the fear of going to a boss and saying that, hey, I don't like this travel schedule anymore. I don't can do it, because you're afraid they might fire you. You know what I mean? On their terms.
You have control over the one side versus the other. And
that was an instance where I was not getting fired for gripe, like saying that. That it's interesting too, because that's the job that I still have since I left in 2014. That's the job that I'll still have dreams that I go back and work at. Like I go back and work, and I probably have
dreams or nightmares.
Dozens. No, it's like I guess they've stopped since I've started my own company. But before that, I was having them all the time. And I'd be excited. I would love to. I would have loved to have gone back there and worked for that company. But you know, everything happens.
How long was it bad? But while you were thinking of quitting, was it like months? Was it years? Or was it like that hasty of a decision when you're just like, all right, enough's enough, I gotta go?
I think that it kind of, it wasn't months, it wasn't years. It was like probably months. It probably was months. The thing with that though is that I was a different professional. I was in a different mind. Like my headspace was very different back then. And anybody over there can tell you this. Like I was a blamer. I would make excuses. I wasn't putting in no accountability whatsoever. You know, so it was a different me.
You're not this well-rounded, high EQ, wonderful person we've gotten to know.
With the green light in the background. I'm gonna change it based on that, James. I'm going blue. Let's go blue.
All
right. So that's one.
Right. Well, I didn't have just burnout on my list. That's a pretty critical one we missed. Continue. What's your number one? Give us the shit show. I already know what you're going to say. So John and I've been listening to this shit for a while.
No, John. Wait, John's got to go first. It's John's turn.
I don't have any more quitting stories.
So this is fine.
Oh, actually, I do. Right. I got a quick one.
He just made one up just now.
No, I did. This actually happened. So I've worked for my dad since I was like 6 years old. You know, growing up.
How many times has he fired you?
Like 1.5. The last one was like the most serious. We didn't talk for like 2 years after that.
You can't fire me. I quit. Is that what it was?
No. So I was in high school and I was working at. So I quit and I was just like, dude, I can't work for this guy. Like, you know, like you got OJT, you leave and then you go and then your dad's like just a slave driver. And I love my dad, but dude, he was like super greedy. Like not a pleasant boss to work for. Anybody that's ever worked for my father would also always say the same thing. But so I leave working for him, and then I get a job at Walmart, right? So I was like a cashier and a people greeter, and they just built this Walmart, so they didn't have like all of the real good management. They like pulled managers from the other, and it was like just a total mess. Like I could go and sleep in my car. Other guys would literally leave and go to movies. I mean, it's crazy. Like they were like, oh, these are all my tickets. In any event, during Christmas time, I shut off my two quick stories. I shut off my register because I figured out that if the ratio of money was flat and not a loss in there, you would get essentially more credit. So in any event, I got cashier of the month, and there was like all these like really really upset ladies. But one other thing to that, it's New Year's Day. I got off because I was in a band at the time. They let me have a few days off to do a couple gigs. And anyway, so it's New Year's Day. There's no other guys working, and I get this call. It says, Mr. Tsourakis, or John, they slaughter my last name. Come to the front. I can't remember how they slaughtered it. So I come up to the front. They're like, hey, there's a guy out in the parking lot driving around in a car flashing people. And I was like, Oh, well, call the police. I was like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, well, you're the only guy like that's here right now. And it was like early morning. They're like, you need to go out there and scare him off. I was like,
Go out there.
Okay.
Go out there and put his penis away. Go put it away.
Yeah, I was like, all right. I was like, I'll be the hero. So, I'm like, 16, 17-year-old kid. So, I go jogging out there.
Hold on a second. You were underage. There's a guy outside flashing, and these adults tell you to go take care of it.
Yeah. It's all these like women.
Man, the 90s were wild, man. Like,
John, I'm right now picturing John in a serious face, dead sprint out to some dude that's got his dick, like showing everybody his shit.
So I go out there, and then I see this like really beat up old light blue Ford Tempo, and it's just sputtering along like, brrr, and then it pulls up to like a mom and like her daughters, and I see them go they drives up to another couple of people, and then they do this. So I'm chasing him, and he did this the whole way out to the point where I didn't even. I get close to like his bumper, like what am I going to do? Grab onto it, and then slow down, and then and he just rode all the way out of the parking lot. Yeah, I mean, anyway. So I quit that place, and Walmart made the biggest deal about me quitting. Right. So at the time, my father had taken away my car. I'm living with him, right? And because he really wanted me to go back to work for him. He saw the losses, and he saw what John really brought to the table. So I was in high demand. And so I call Walmart, and I tell them I'm not going to be able to make my shift. They're like, why? I was like, car trouble. They're like, you know what? We're going to have somebody come get you. I was like, I'll call you back. Right? So I was like, oh, Jesus. So I was like, I got to just be straight up with him. So I call back, and I tell him, like, hey, it's not car trouble. I was like, I can't work there anymore. It's just not going to happen. And they were so cool, and this goes to a lot of Walmart credit. They said, hey, we want you to come in and sign a form, because if you don't do that, you'll never be able to be hired at any other Walmart company again if your name ever comes up. So I went in, signed the form, and they actually fucked me on my last check. But in any event, that's my quit story, which we probably need to edit a lot of this out because I realized I just rambled and prattled a bit.
No, it was good.
So
the impression of the car was perfect.
Yeah, I was trying to, but you quit because the old ladies at Walmart made you chase a sexual predator out of the parking lot when you were 16 years old.
No, I wish there was that good of a time. Walmart's just an awful company to work for. And dude, like, here, another quick thing a lot of people don't realize at Walmart, like, so I'd be in the room. Dude, I'd be like 16 years old just mowing down cigs. Like, they didn't give a shit. But they tell you how to get on like welfare, like SNAP, how to get like Section 8 housing. And I was listening to this lady. They literally, it's like in their culture, speaking of culture, like this indoctrination, if you're not careful, of like literally how to keep people in a specific place and how to game the system. She was saying, like, hey, this is how I got on EBT card, like, this is how I got on welfare. This is how I got all these like programs, right, that she shouldn't have even been on. And then she said, you know how I only pay, and her rent at the time was like $150 or $200 for actually kind of a decent place where there's Section 8 housing. Like if they have a skyrise in Chicago, that there's funding for like a few Section 8 housing apartments, where she had like the inside deal on this. And then she had apparently like disability because she claimed that she was like mentally challenged. When this lady was like as sharp as a tack. The whole point of me telling you that, she was a manager. And they're telling like other employees like how to play this game, like only almost holding like
this is at Walmart.
At Walmart, yeah, like we're
someone at Walmart corporate. They're gonna have an AI thing. They're gonna find this podcast and then they're gonna shut us down. You're gonna get it. You're gonna cease and desist letter.
All right, well,
the evil empire.
I mean, but granted, this was in the 90s, and I mean, I could say like in Florida, but it was like a mini seminar on like how to fuck the system.
Oh,
and I was seeing that happen over and over again. These conversations. Yeah. Oh yeah, it doesn't happen in Illinois. No, not a chance.
I'm not from there. What do I care? Doesn't happen in Pittsburgh.
I don't care.
Yeah, never happened in Ohio. That's for sure.
No, none of that. That's the first time I've seen you take like offense to us jabbing Florida, because we jab Florida.
I know, you got really upset there. That's the first time I've seen John take offense to anything. Actually, now I think about it, like I've never seen you get defensive until I claimed that your Walmart experience was limited to Florida. You got mad.
It's a global company that's ruined small cities. What can I say? And I was a part of it for a minute there. Yeah. I mean, dude, being a people greeter, smoking weed in the 90s where your buddies are coming up to you, just bullshitting. Dude, it was a great job.
It's every movie that we saw.
But it is the evil empire.
Yeah. All right, Jared.
All right. So the big one for me was somewhat recent. The company I was with, we got acquired. and the acquisition was an absolute shit show of a dumpster fire. That's what it was. Like we were before we got acquired, great team, great company, great culture, purpose driven, like just a good company. And we had a private equity firm above us that we really liked. Then they sold to this other company, and the other company brought us back about 10 years in processes. They pissed off all of our clients. Our employees started to quit, and they wouldn't let us rehire. So some employees were taking on like triple the burden of client work, and they were burnout. The values did not align from the leadership team of the company that acquired us. Just felt like they weren't very good people. You know, they were very transactional. We were the 40th acquisition, and they often would refer to us in front of our company, our team, as number 40 instead of the company that we were. So it was really, really bad acquisition. It's all the stuff that you hear about, but learn from it. So I would say that, I didn't leave until they moved me away from this company and put me in a different seat that worked with a bunch of their other acquisitions. And I was absolutely wrong person, wrong seat. Like I hated my role, what I was doing. They were not using any of my strengths. Just like digital media stuff that was around like helping other brands like build out their like help with their website and stuff. Like I didn't give a shit about that.
Like a digital media coordinator.
Yeah, it was just like that. Yeah, and
that's a suck-ass job.
I was told I met with
I've been doing it for 20 years.
I met with the CMO. First time I met the CMO. I walk in and we're sitting there, and she goes, so I was doing a little bit of sales, a little bit of marketing with the role that we were just acquired. And I love networking. I love getting in front of people. And she literally goes, you can't do sales and marketing. You got to choose which one. She's like, if you want to do marketing, you got to stop with all the sales. You got to stop the groups you're networking with. You got to stop all of that and focus. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure, that sounds good. That was like the moment I was just like, this is done. I called my wife on the way back. I'm like, all right, gonna start looking for a job. I mean, at that time, I didn't realize that I was going to be starting a company, but so yeah, it was an interesting experience.
So it's so common. I want to go through just a list of things that part of I build this out, part I use a little AI to give me a little bit of help, but every single one of these things are things I've seen in my career people leaving their jobs for. But I wanted to highlight that one though, because the amount of times, and I have to be careful saying this, I do not believe that be very specific, I do not believe that all private equity companies are terrible, all mergers are terrible, but so many.
I just got off a call with somebody. I just got off a call with somebody right before this that her company was acquired about a year and a half ago. And she said the private equity group that acquired them is unbelievable. She loves them to death. And it's like the opposite story of what I went through.
There are a lot out there that actually make companies better. But unfortunately, there's also a lot out there that's just value destruction. You know, it's a giant leverage buyout game. And I more times than I can count, I've talked to people who, you know, they tell me I'm starting to look because we just got acquired, and then 6 months later they're like, I'm hopeful, I think it's gonna. Then 6 months later it's a complete shit show. It's just
man, and I've met some of these guys that run. I've met some people at PE firms that are awesome, like like the lady you got off the phone with, Jared. And they literally they care about it, and they're buying it for the right reasons, and they're really clear on expectations to the point they're like talking the people out of it. Like, this is what this is going to be, you know. And I've met the others that are just flat out scumbag fucking liars. Yep. Yeah. And it's like, dude, like they know that they're causing the car wreck, and they don't care. Like, that to me is like in that psychopathic level. Like, dude, that is just. And they're just like, oh, well, it's just an asset. Yeah, okay, well, all of our homes are fucking assets, and there's slumlords, you piece of shit, and then there's the rest of us, you know? And it's just like, I don't understand it. But, dude, I don't even know if PE is the majority of that, but just a fraction of those people can make it look that way because it's just that devastating.
It's great. It's really any kind of merger and acquisition. It's just that private equity is the main driver of it nowadays. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you go back 20 years ago, it would have been just other companies buying other companies. Yeah. But I think that's how PE gets scapegoated a lot, because that's where most investing things, or family offices or whatever.
So the private equity group that was was above us before we got acquired was great. Loved them. Still have friends that work there. But the new one was just very EBITDA focused. That was their driver. It was EBITDA. Nothing mattered. People did not matter. It was just EBITDA. And, you know, I've talked to people that have since left, and they all kind of felt the same way, but it was tough to have that conversation there because this company was tracking your keyboard strokes, tracking your clicks, tracking what websites you would go to. And I have my own Mac, and they're like, you need to trade your computer. You need to get one of ours. I'm like, sure, yeah. Just deliver it to this location. And that went on for 6 months. And I'm like, there's no fucking way. You're not ever getting, I'm at the point in my career, you're not tracking my shit. Like, that's not going to happen. If you don't trust that your employees are doing their job, then that's not your employee's problem. That's your problem. Like, that is an issue at the top, that you've got like some issues with trust or whatever it is, or realize that you need to put a mirror in front of yourself and your culture fucking blows. So that was something that,
you know, what's crazy about that though? The liability, if they're actually tracking keyboard strokes and that employee does something wrong, like, and they didn't catch it in a matter of time, the onus is then on them. So either way, I agree with you. It shouldn't be cool, but I think, yeah, in no way tracking keyboard strokes is a good idea. And if anybody has that job where your boss is doing that, quit.
Around quitting, though, so one of the things that we did as a leadership team was we started to see the stress levels of our employees, and we started to give them permission to look for jobs. Basically say, like, don't feel like you are... What is that tapping? Is that James getting annoyed that we're still talking?
No, that was John just getting super entertained.
It was, but we saw the stress levels, and we started to have the conversations with them. Like, don't feel obligated to the company that was this. Like, we're not that anymore. So if you need help, like looking for another job or whatever, like, let us know. So we were kind of helping them behind the scenes get new jobs, but man, that was not a fun time. Learning.
Is that a fiduciary duty of a leadership to help get?
Next topic. Next podcast.
Let's blow through some things here. And the one thing I want to say to set this up, because I said there's the bad bosses thing is also everyone it's always about money. I can honestly say that what gets conflated here, money is one of the main drivers for someone accepting a job. One of the things they look at, it's very seldom it's the main driver for someone leaving. It's almost always something else first and the money. Like... 9 times out of it's very rarely someone calls and says, I want to leave my job because I'm not paid. It's always something else that's driving it, and then also I want more money like thrown on it, which I think people really get conflated, because then when they start looking for that new job, then it comes about money for that job. But I just wanted to kind of point that out, which is
like the shiny thing that gets your attention.
Yeah. But think about this though. Think about all the times you've heard, James. I'm sure you've heard this a ton, that somebody goes to their boss and says, I'm going to leave. This company offered me this much money. Yeah. And that company says, no, stay, I'll match that. They match it, and that person still leaves 2 to 3 months later or whatever it is. It has nothing to do with the money at the end of the day. Like, right? It's like you trying to pay somebody to match a company that's trying to snipe them away. You're just delaying the inevitable. That person is still going to leave at some point. I have not heard a story of a company matching and that employee not eventually leaving.
Totally, I had that.
Everyone eventually leaves every job. Obviously, it's over one time frame.
No shit, but you get my point.
Are we talking about the but I think a short amount of time is kind of what you're getting at. Like, it typically doesn't last forever. Yeah. So I had an amazing copywriter that worked for me, and she was paid really well, but she came to me and said, "Hey, I'm getting a job at Publix, essentially. It's another Florida company," and I was like, "Okay." I was like. She's like, but I want to stay. Can you match it? And she told me the number. It was literally double. And I was like, there's no way I can match this. But she was there less than a year and then went back. And I think at some point wanted to come back. But, of course, we couldn't even afford her now because she had scaled completely up. But I agree with that. Yeah, if you're chasing money, a guy early on told me this. He said, he's like, if you chase things, they tend to run. And the guy was a total womanizer. And he was like, yeah, he's like, so don't chase women. And he's like, and don't chase money. Because they will run. I was like, okay, all right. Yeah, I think it's good advice.
Not to say, again, I'm not saying it never. There are people out there that like their career path is like, I'm going to move jobs every 2 years to get increases. You know what I mean? But that's not the majority. It's not a common thing. Anyways,
James, I would love to meet the people that you brought up in stories throughout our podcast. Like that guy. Like every time you know so many scumbags.
Dude, well, here's the thing, dude. I love people, so I talk to everybody, right? And you pick up little pieces of advice throughout. This guy was actually, I'd say, moderately successful in my late teens.
They're just normal Florida folk, Jared. There's nothing at all like special about John's friends. It's just everyone in Florida. All right. Let me rip into a few other ones. Sorry.
He was like the ringtone master, by the way. Remember when ringtones were a thing? Like you could buy them? Like, dude, this guy sold like millions in ringtones. Anyway. Yeah.
That was actually cool back then. To get
Where'd that
ringtones.
business go?
I don't know. I mean, did you guys have ringtones? Rabbit Hole.
Yeah, of course. What was your song?
Hang on, Sloopy. It's an Ohio
I don't
State
know
song.
what that is. That sounds.
Is
I
it-
don't
it's-
know.
I've always
Like
just been a
McCoy's?
put it on. I've always been a put it on vibrate kind of. I just never like,
Of course you have. Of course James has.
I
I would
still
have
have the
guessed.
same
I would have gunned
song.
ahead. I would have said James is a vibrate only guy. He hates everything.
I just
I
don't
still
need
have the same
a.
song.
I just don't fucking need like a loud ass song coming out of nowhere. Like it's in my phone's in my
Dude,
pocket most of the time. I notice when it's ringing.
I got a story for you. This is a good story.
Okay.
This is a John story. I'm at a funeral. Okay, I'm at this funeral and I'm sitting in the second row of this funeral. It's my friend's grandfather had died, and no, I'm sorry, my friend's grandmother died. We're sitting there, and I've got my phone with me, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the funeral, the priest is talking. You just literally hear blasting because I completely forgot to turn it down from my pocket. It's the final countdown.
Nice. That's a strong one. That
Dude.
is strong.
And
one bites
it
the
was,
dust would have been
and
the
I'm
same
like,
one.
I was in shock, and I was like, and you hear the doo-doo-doo-doo, like that go, and my friend's, it was a girl, her brother looks at me, whose grandmother that we're at the funeral for, and he's kind of starts laughing. He's laughing. I'm like, oh my god, it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. Like the final
great,
countdown
dude.
out of all songs, pop up, sing it.
I'm gonna download maybe I'll put Final Count on my phone today just for you guys. And
Do
then
it.
next time I see you, John,
think-
call me so Jared can hear it go off.
Little
Yeah.
Europe.
So here, a quick story. I was just in New York, and speaking of that, and when I love talking to my Uber drivers, right? Especially when you find out where they're from. So if they're from Colombia, there's a question that has been answered yes to every single time. To I would say under 100, but pretty close to it in every Colombian I've ever met. I always ask them like, "Have you ever done cocaine?" Every single one says yes, which I love that, right? And then I made a joke. I was like, hanging out with Pablo Escobar, and then things turned sideways. Pablo Escobar turns out murdered this guy's brother. Yeah, my wife was with me.
Who the
I
fuck
know.
has these stories besides John?
I know. My wife was with me, and it was like the most somber thing. We're like, oh shit. You know what I mean?
Of all the ways
then
you could stick your foot in your mouth, what are the odds?
I know, man. That's why my mouth is shaped like.
I
a
mean,
foot. So.
dude, I just feel like we need to hire a cameraman just to follow John around and just shoot video of John just being out and about talking to people.
I'd probably offend him somehow accidentally. He takes off. Sorry, dude. I was joking, man.
I quit. Why'd you quit? Offended. Add offended to the list.
All right, let me blow through a few. We've been going for a while.
All right, let's do it. Yeah,
I
let's
don't,
go.
I don't,
Come on,
I don't want
guys.
people
What's
to
going
lose
on
interest because it's been going on for a while.
James
There's a
lost
few.
interest.
There's a few I put. I have lost interest. There's a few I put. Well, actually, I have a meeting in 10 minutes, so I actually need to go. So one whole category. The work is just fucking dumb. Like I don't think we talk about that one enough. There's a lot of jobs, and I've mentioned this in other podcasts. Everything we do is kind of insane when you think about it. Like we're all in service industry. Most people listening to this are in the service-based, companies.
All seven of them?
You got SaaS companies that sell to other SaaS companies. Like, what do we actually do anymore in this country besides just make a bunch of services that support software, that support ad-based companies of stuff no one actually needs? At some point, people are like, this is fucking dumb, and I want to do something else with my life. So that's one. Similar to that, I would say, is intellectual neglect. Like, there are smart people punching way below their weight. There are people who are way more capable of doing things than whatever they're doing on a current basis, and they get fucking bored. I would also roll that into oftentimes, those people are working for leaders who they're smarter than their boss. Not to say their boss is a bad person, but their boss or their executives. Like sometimes you can tell the people who run companies like they ain't shit. Like there's nothing special about them. They just had rich parents, and it doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just that they're just not that good or interesting or intelligent, but they're the ones running the company. So that's another reason why people leave. Similar to that too, there's no upward trajectory. I think that's a huge one. Like you could be at a company that you like, but again, you're bored, not because the work sucked, because you've been doing the same job for how many years. So again, closely related. Back to mediocre leadership. Perceived unfairness is a huge one. I think that most people suck at communication, and even if they don't suck at communication, it's hard as an organization gets larger and larger to I think we said one of the other ones earlier. We were talking about like not being appreciative of like invisible work people do, and not like giving them kind of proper praise and stuff like that. But when some people get praise and other people don't, those people who do the same two jobs, that's a huge issue. You know, if it's asymmetric, if people have their favorites and you're not the favorite, or even if it's not real, even if you think someone else is getting more gratitude than you are, that's an issue in itself.
I knew a girl that couldn't get a promotion at a pretty big company, as computer associates at the time, because she didn't smoke. Like that's where like the managers went, and like that was how you got into the circle. I was like, well, pick up a pack of Marlboros, take one of mine. No?
I think the last one I'll say is vibe decay. I do think there's a lot of people who have worked at companies that used to be a lot of fun, and now they're not fun. They got bigger, people left. Maybe the person who was like in charge of the culture left, or the coolest people around. Maybe they just, and again, I don't want to dump this all on mergers and acquisitions, but they become different companies, and it's just not the cool place that you were used to before. Is another reason why people leave.
Have you ever experienced where like somebody you worked with like became like a manager and kind of like had to change their whole persona, and it just like diluted all the energy that was in a company? Like I've witnessed that firsthand. The company that I quit, it was like that. Like they had to play like they were boss, and they were terrible at it. And I was like, dude, this isn't how you guys managed before, and things were awesome. And now you think you need to be a certain way, and the ultimate outcome is nobody wants to work there anymore.
No one gets leadership training, which I think is part of that.
Oh, that's true. Thrown to the wolves.
Like leadership training is pretty much non-existent in most places, especially now. Like all that shit's been. We used to see more like learning and development and
you don't
sales
think it's
training, leadership training. A lot of that's gone.
Well, I did not know that. I guess. Well, why do you feel like it's gone? With the amount of coaches and leadership development things that maybe I'm just stuck in my little LinkedIn.
You're stuck in LinkedIn bullshit coach land. And what you're seeing is people hustling, trying to drum up business by talking about what a good coach they are, an executive coach. I'm not
you want to be a content creator? You want to be an influencer? You need to call James. James Hornick will set you right. Leadership.
Dude, you just reminded me of what's the Righteous Gemstones buddy, the cousin? What's his name?
Baby
I've
Billy?
only seen like certain clips.
Baby
of
Billy.
Like anything
Baby
Walton
Billy.
Goggins is in. Is that Walton Goggins?
Yeah.
Baby Billy.
Oh, yeah,
Baby
I
Billy.
love that.
Baby Billy.
Yeah, no, it's so it's a different tangent entirely, but leadership development training and learning and development training companies. So it was we placed tons of those people. I would say like when the market was booming, like 2021, everyone had more money. They're going to figure out how to cross train. As soon as things kind of dried up, the VC funding dried up, and that kind of trickled downhill. It's just everyone's like AI comes out. That was like the big cost cut everywhere. No one's spending nearly as much
EOS
money.
killed it too, man. These operating systems,
EOS.
Yeah.
I think, I think these operating systems, people are just like, oh, well, this system has it, and it just needs to live in this ecosystem, the entrepreneurial operating system, and then Vern Harnish's thing, scaling up or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, I'm just seeing, because I know what you're talking about. Like there was all this like leadership push, but it seems like that's diminished, and then people now are all gung ho about these systems, which do work well.
We were an EOS shop in a previous. We do run EOS Lite now, but we were an EOS shop previously, but we still also had quarterly leadership retreats where we would have coaches come in and do leadership development, which was awesome. So I think those two can go hand in hand. But I could see how some companies don't understand that and just be like, no more leadership development. We're operating on EOS. Why do we need anything else?
Yeah,
it's not leadership development. That's operational, efficiency.
Yeah, but a lot of these things that we've went through kind of a laundry list here. Like again, they weren't all just bad boss or more money. Like that's such a basic bitch take that I'm sick of hearing it every time I see it. So there's more nuance to this whole quitting game than people realize.
Yeah.
So
it's not just a shitty boss.
Anyways, John, you didn't say anything in this episode that nope, never mind. Never mind.
Give him a second.
I was literally. You didn't say anything in this episode that was going to get us canceled.
Well, he said something before he hit the record button, so that was the kind of the big one. I'm not going to bring that up again.
We can just beep him out, man.
It's the one that starts with the one that starts with
no,
dick.
it doesn't start with anything. No, that wasn't even it. We got that all recorded. The whole conversation about the whole genitalia conversation is yeah, it's all
That's what
recorded.
it's spelled.
We spent 5 minutes talking about genitalia before we started.
I was just listening. I wasn't saying anything about it.
Roll the tape. That'll be a great clip. Have John say that, and then let's go back and actually like show who said what as we kind of led this whole thing up.
The whole thing would be bleeped out. Nobody would. I mean,
Yeah.
It would be interesting. I'll see if I can edit in that part.
But
of
there's
it.
an art to it where it's not considered like sleazy or below the belt. I've realized that. Not that I'm like the purveyor of that, but I've seen people. You know, there's a way to do it. You know, that's not.
I don't think we were sleazy.
gross.
Maybe below the belt, but I don't think it was sleazy. It was like
We were talking about television. We were talking about the righteous gemstones and the amount of male nudity in the episode, and how some people find it funny and other people like are creeped out by it. That's what the conversation was.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I think when you see male genitalia in comedy shows, it's hilarious. Remember,
Or like super bad. Like, dude, that's the best.
Hall
like,
Pass.
Where they're
Hall
talking
Pass.
about
Hall
the
Pass
dick
had one of the
touches.
best scenes ever in Hall Pass.
I had one
Well, I
friend
don't
who
remember.
quit watching Righteous Gemstones because he couldn't take the amount of. I'm like, it's a great show. So get over yourself. All right, we're going off the
We're
rails.
literally ending the quitting podcast talking
Yeah.
about penises.
Yes,
That's it.
That is your wrap.
And if your boss shows you theirs, also a good
Quit.
reason to quit.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah. All right, episode 15 in the books of the Business is Bullshit podcast. You can catch us on iTunes and Spotify and all that. James Hornick, Jared Gibson, Jon Tsourakis signing off, reminding you that business is bullshit.
Certainly is.